Hey, my name's Sean Teis, and this is Let's Talk About Fatherlessness show. Excited to be able to talk to Devon Harris today from Circle Refuge Ministries. Hey, Devon, how you doing?
Hey, Sean. Doing well, man.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your organization, about your story. We're just going to talk about fatherlessness. This is just a casual conversation about it.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean, for the invite and the opportunity. Full Circle Refuge started back in 1994, kind of. I'm retired military. I was a new believer back in the 90s. I was a foxhole decision in a desert storm, coming out of that and trying to see where God was leading, and was normal, I guess, thinking of what's my Christian life going to be like? Is just sitting in a pew, listen to a message, and going out to dinner, and life would go well. I was stirred by that's not good enough, and somebody approached me at a church and said, "Would you like to go to the juvenile facility, what we call here in this area, Youth Development Campuses? It's like a prison for kids." Mm-hmm. And basically, I was thinking in my mind, my past, the only thing that really saved me from being locked up, I think, was going into the military at that time. So my concept of jail was only what the media shared with me at that moment in my life. So I was basically thinking I was going to go into this facility, walk in to the cell and look at this young man, give him a gospel tract and say, "Jesus loves you," and I can walk on out. And I felt pretty comfortable about that. And I was a soldier at that time, leading other soldiers, that can tell another soldier to jump from point A to B. And when I walked in there, Sean, I had fear factor kick in, Yeah. I thought all these boys were going to be in these cells and I was going to, that was it. But they were coming towards me to shake my hand, and I go, no, this ain't cool. And we went into a room, and this other guy started to do a Bible study, and I had all this fear going through me that these kids, how much money I had in my pocket, they're gonna rip me off, and all this negative stuff was flowing, and or I felt like they can see the fear in me. And here I was, a soldier at that time, and it's really weird. Even the guy asked me at the end, "Devon, you got anything to share?" "Nah, man, I'm ready to go." And I even got home to my wife, and I stated, "I don't know what God is up to, but this is not my cup of tea." And basically what happened is this guy kind of influenced me to go a second time, Sean. I don't know what he said to me, but I did go a second and a third time. And God showed me that here was kids that had been misdirected, that needed direction. And all he wanted me to tell them was the way, the truth, and the life. And the neat thing about that time, look in hindsight, and how God is preparing people for ministry, is very powerful to me all the time. That, every Monday night at that time, I would go meet with these guys in lockup. And Sean, this, take this with a grain, what I'm saying. These guys taught me who God was. Because I was a new believer. And I went to church every Sunday and everything and read my Bible. But whatever I had to share with these young men every week had to work. It had to work for their scenario, their world. And they taught me that reality, the struggles they were going through that I never understood, and then I stuck with this. And in 1999, I retired from the military prematurely, turned down a promotion to do what we do today, Full Circle Refuge. And, I thought it was crazy, but I did it. And myself and my wife, we created a nonprofit, Full Circle Refuge. And the focus of Full Circle Refuge is to see Jesus transform the lives of juvenile offenders and at-risk youth, period. In lockup, on the streets, gangs, wherever God leads us. And we've seen thousands and thousands of kids over the years, and really learn a lot about that culture, in our season of life now. I'm a lot older. I started that in my late 30s, and I'll be 62 this year, and I kind of think about it sometimes, Sean, am I still relevant, to the culture? And God always, because we have history with them, or that mindset, there's always an open door that God gives me something to say that really resonates with them. And God says, yeah, I'm not done with you yet. I'm not done with you yet. So that's in a nutshell. That's Full Circle Refuge from the beginning to this moment in time, right at this time. So thank you.
That's great. And then we connected through social media.
Yeah,
I think
crazy.
probably 2018, something like that. And
yeah.
then you were awesome to let me come and speak at some of the youth detention centers, and then also the one school that you're at.
Yes.
And you're, as you're talking, sharing about how you felt about it. That's the way I felt going in. I'm like, man, am I going to get?
Yeah, that's right.
There's something about that cell closing behind you, the door closing behind you. I remember hearing that noise. I'm like, this is scary. And
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an incredible experience. Now, and now you've done this for you said 96 was the first time you went?
94. Yeah,
94.
1994.
So
Yeah.
wow. So
That's
we're
been
looking
a
at
minute.
almost 30 years. Almost 30
Yes.
years you've been doing it. So 28
Yeah.
years. What have you seen? You're obviously dealing with tons of fatherless individuals. Is there any statistics that you've seen? And then also just personally what you've seen in the issue of fatherlessness with this?
Yeah. That's one of the questions I always ask in a group. And, and it is majority. It could be 10 boys sitting there or girls or 100 is majority. And they always look around at each other, and they didn't realize they were in the same mix. Then you go to the point, do you have a relationship with your father? And you might get that negative one that I don't want to see that man, or I don't know where he's at. Or you can see the body language change in the group very rapidly. And the reason why I asked the question is because I'm walking into their world as a man, and want to befriend them, so they listen to me because they've been already canceled out, hurt by an adult male, or preconceived ideas of what that man was, or they've been told by their mother what that man was, and that they're just like them, or whatever it may be, and they're trying to navigate their own journey in life. And so trying to get past that wall all the time. But in lockup, in juvenile facilities, it's right in that 90% everywhere we go. And we know we have to approach that every time. When I walk in, especially as me as a man walking in there.
Yeah, and so what do you say to them? Like, how do you? As they're dealing with fatherlessness, what do you say to them about the issue of like God being their father, or whatever it might be?
Yeah, first of all, one of the things we do in one of our sessions with our what we call court order kids, and these are not lockup. Whatever your father's done, it's not your fault.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're going to talk about how, if you were a father today, or when you get married and you have kids, how are you going to treat your kids? Will you treat them the same way, or what do you want? So give them hope that they don't have to be the same as people are already said that. And I do hear that a lot, that you just like your daddy, kind of concept. And so, kids start acting that out, whatever that mentality is, try to get them past that. Even presenting the gospel, and we probably talked about this before, how you approach that about God the Father, can really turn them off, because if he's like my father, I don't want no part of him, and getting past that, it's bigger than that. So it depends, but the conversation is trying to get me past them, past that mentality of I'm here, I'm not like their father.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You're speaking about that, I had a professor that knew some of my story when I was in college, and I wanted to move out of the dorms. I hated living in the college dorms. We went to a strict college, and it just wasn't fun. You know what I mean? I hate the dorms, so I wanted to move out. So I went into this apartment, and when I went to the apartment, this professor told me because I moved out of the dorms that I was going to turn out like my dad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why would you ever say that to me? My dad was an
Wow.
alcoholic. He was heavily
Yes.
involved in the adult film industry. He was abusive to my mom. He made me fatherless. And I'm studying in a Bible college, and the guy's like, "You're going to turn out like your dad." I'm like, it was one of the worst things he
Crazy.
could ever said to me.
Yeah.
I had bitterness towards that guy for a long time. I finally went to him later and apologized. But I couldn't imagine somebody that hadn't had the mentors that I had, hadn't had the people in my life that I had. I was blessed. I'm not bragging myself, but I was blessed to have those people, how they would have handled somebody saying that to them, like you're saying.
Yeah. 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 And, one of the things that's, dealing with this culture, and especially in lockup, one of the things that it's designed, especially if you come in religious services or Christian service or Bible study, one of the things I found out that a lot of kids, they're looking for hope. And so they've heard of maybe Jesus or things like that. And somebody's walking in, it's like Superman walking in, in a sense that everything can be solved. And they levitate to you, and it can be kind of a reversal effect on the person coming in. Wow, man, I can go in it. That's why I'm going to be loved. So we have to be careful with that
Yeah.
scenario too. But we try to befriend them, to get past what we're trying to present. Because I always tell all my boys, you might think I'm all this and all that, but I'll fail you because I'm a man. I'll fail you, but God
Yeah.
can never fail you. And trying to get them past that, so it's not a dependence on it, because I will probably disappoint them too, in some form or fashion, not intentionally, but because we're just limited.
And that's exactly it. And it is hard being a mentor. It is hard being somebody. I remember being a teenager, seeing some of my mentors, and I held them to a high standard. And when they would do something, I
Yeah,
would look at them and be like, "You're a horrible person." So that is very challenging. It's difficult
yeah.
to deal with. So what do you see with some of the teenagers that you work with in the issue of fatherlessness? What do you see with them? How they're navigating in their own life? Is there anything else that you see, trends and things like that?
Yeah, one of the things first of all, it almost tying in what we just discussed about failure. On the other side of the coin is their failure. And let's say we set a set of goals or expectations, and they fail. I've heard from young men say, "Well, Mr. Devon, I guess you don't want to meet with me no more because I failed." No, we just reset the goal. We reset the goal. Another thing that I see, and myself and my wife were just discussing this the other day. It's crazy when you ask kids that have been through a lot of disappointment and disconnections, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you'd be surprised what I get. You would think they would want to be, a rapper, whatever, all this stuff. I'm going to do all this. We do hear them, but majority kids, it really throws me out. I want to be a counselor,
Mm,
and I want to help kids like me. I want to be a counselor
wow.
because it's kind of a focus of navigating their own trauma by helping somebody else.
Yeah.
They see that they see their own counselors or mentors that are doing great things, or kids that say, "I want to be a mentor." So it's pretty amazing that they have hope that things can change if they can do the right things. It's like looking at it. You've heard the story about alcoholic parents. Is alcohol parenting? You're seeing a child or a teenager or a young adult coming up and says, I refuse to even have a drink because I've seen that." But that's not everybody. We know the other side of the story, that we see that there's a sensitivity If your family, your mother or father was an alcoholic, most likely you would come. But there's another piece that a lot of people seen the atrocity of it, the pain of it, and they refuse to be part of it at all. So, but it's very unique to see, conversations that we have with kids. It's all over the place.
Yeah. Any advice for people that are working with fatherless individuals, just starting into it or wanting to get into, just working with fatherlessness really is what we're talking
Yeah,
about. But anybody,
yeah,
like people that want to get into working with kids like this, any books,
yeah,
resources that have helped you to help understand the ones you're working
yeah,
with?
yeah. Well, one of the things is you have to get rid of what you think worked in your past. I always use the
That's
same
good.
concept. We did it this way. Why can't it? I get tired of that one from folks in church. They say, why can't they get it right? We were right, or they'll give some preconceived idea about they walked up the hill in the snow around whatever, all this concept. But it's a different
Yeah.
world. So we have to get rid of that. And here, again, coming into that world as a soldier, you got to do what I have to say. I have to get rid of a lot of things because some of these kids will get under your skin. And then I always look at the guys I work with. It's not where they're at, not at this point. It's not what they're dealing with, or even if they cuss you out, look at you funny, or whatever, or laugh at something. It's where God can take them to, and He's just giving you the opportunity to be part of it. And Sean, I have young men in our lives. They've been in our lives since they were adolescents, teenagers, and they're grown men. I even have guys that still we're conversations with. They're in their 40s now, that we met when they were young.
Yeah.
So, we're here for the long haul. And when you're mentoring or you're dealing with fatherless, you have to make a commitment to say you might have to be there for the long haul for a young person. I'm really amazed at times at just the inkling thing that I've said to him that stuck with them for the rest of their life. It's held them on, even into their adult life. You know, Resources. One of the things I always look at, I try to understand the pulse of the culture. I'll be real. If there's a new fashion flavor, I ask the kids, "Hey, man, explain it to me. Explain the lingo, the slang, whatever."
Yeah.
But also understanding what's happening around the world and how things. I did several interviews last year about a spike in gang activity in our area, and the question was, we had over 50 teenagers die from gang violence within a time frame from April of 2022 all the way to September. And
Wow.
they were trying to figure. Yeah, it was a real spike for our area. And the news journalist asked me, "Do you think COVID has anything to do with that?" Pre-COVID coming in, and I said, "Well, the inconsistency with our education, in and out of school, lockdown, or parents trying to navigate things, and it's a very impressionable time of their lives. And if they don't have that, it's such a critical time, that adolescence of getting affirmations, reaffirming that I'm a man or I'm a woman at this time, and you don't have these avenues in your life, and somebody on the streets tell you, I'm going to show you what a man is, or in a very negative way, showing what a real woman is, you're going to have these results." And we had these results, and it was very devastating. And politically, folks were trying to answer it, and it wasn't coming out really well. But biblically, we can answer it, and you have to be in with the long haul, and come alongside these kids, even in their struggles of things that just rub you wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered everything you asked for, Sean.
No, it does, because I have more to add to that. Like, for example, you said the continuing relationship. And James 1:27 says, "Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this,
That's right.
to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction, to keep himself inspired from the world." That verse says to visit. And we've preached about this all over the country. To visit means to look upon in order to help or to benefit. It's not a one-time thing. And so what you're doing is you're visiting them. You're visiting them. Now, is it weekly or monthly, or how often do you guys go in?
Yeah. Well, we some of our facilities it's monthly, some of it's weekly, and then we have a contract with the juvenile courts that it's a court order to one of our programs. They're not locked up, but that is the alternate.
Oh, wow.
Then getting locked up. If they can complete the 10-week sessions, and it's
live?
basically we celebrate it again. Say that again.
Are they live
again,
or is it video? Is it video or live, the sessions?
No, it's live. We have 10 boys, 10 to 15 boys, and they come in there with all their preconceived, the same thing I just shared earlier. You're an old man, you don't know what I know what's going on in life, and we break them down to focus what real manhood is. And we celebrated it in John with what we call at a fine restaurant. We go to a fine restaurant where they're going to be served, and we call it rites of passage to manhood. And we celebrate all their successes, because they tell me their stories. They're going back to their home, and just the trauma going on in the house. It's like, whoa. And it from their perspective, it seems like it's a norm. I had a 12-year-old. I won't go into details about names, but I was asking, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Some of the other boy blotted up. Oh, he jacks up cars for the gang. And I came to him. He's 12 years old. I looked at him and I said, "Do you know how to drive a car?" I didn't say, "That's wrong. You're jacking up cars." I said, "You know how to drive a car?" "Yeah, man, I drive pretty good." Okay. And I said, "You ever been locked up?" "Yeah, I got locked up one night over there at the temporary facility." He said, "But Mr. Devon, they had some awesome Chinese food." And I thought about it. I said, so that was your highlight of being locked up. That was some awesome Chinese food. He said, "Yeah."
Wow.
I said, "I'll tell you what, when we finish this 10 weeks, me and you are going to go break bread together at a fine Chinese restaurant. And we're going to dialogue." And
that's cool.
What happened at that instant? I could have said carjacking is wrong. Car theft is wrong. Grand Theft Auto is this. Gave him all the history. But no, I just redirected it. And he became one of our best students in the class that interacted all the time and wanted to express his opinion. So just breaking that ice, just look for them opportunities, and it can go a long ways with a child. It can go a long ways. And I think this is where parenting misses the point sometimes, and we have kids that are walking out there like that. They might even have a father in the home, but are they parenting correctly? Where you're really investing into your child for 18 years and celebrating their wins. Because I have kids tell me, "My mama got mad because I got 2 Fs. I said, "Did you get any A's?" She said, "Yeah," but she didn't talk about that. Well, we need to talk about the A's in their life too, but pull up your F's, and so we see a lot of that dynamics psychologically happening. That's really challenging kids. And I'll finish with this, Sean. A lot of people think a lot of kids are walking into crime that do not have a father in the home, but there's that absentee father, that's in the home. That absentee father that's really challenging at times too. That has never, and I just amazed at times. I've seen this. A kid will make the news, and it's high profile gang activity, and I get a call from the parents, and the father is there talking to me. I go, "What?" Or they have been to church. They're church folks, but they missed the boat of what true parenting is. we need to step back from maybe what we think church is, and step back from our hard work of life. And now we've been exposed. Now you got to deal with this kid, and he's probably going to go to prison, and you got to deal with the dynamics of that. So really prayerfully walking through life of parenting. And just a disclaimer, John, and you know this. Myself and my wife been married 40 plus years, and God never blessed us with biological kids. But we had many kids stay in a home, and we took in custody of kids. Side note about that, about parenting. What do you know? Type thing. So that's where I got my parenting from. There you go, Sean.
No, that's good. That's good. And I appreciate you sharing that. As we kind of wrap up,
Yes,
I wanted to ask you, there's a statistic that I've shared, it feels like a million times, but obviously it wasn't that much, but it's 85% of youth in prisons grew up in fatherless homes. That's an old statistic. Can you speak to that? You're working with the youth in prisons, youth detention centers. What are your thoughts on that statistic? And is it growing? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the statistics is right on par. I used to say 90%, I don't know, right around there. But as I gave you that unofficial survey of everywhere we go, it is there. So that shows you something. If somebody can come alongside, just like our juvenile court program, will come alongside before they get caught up in the penal system. All right, we can deter crime. We can offset that. Even when I go into adult maximum security prison, it's the same MO, the same message I hear from adult men that are lifers, the same message. So in my walk, if I can do my best of come alongside a child, to deter them, to give them hope. I look at it from a practical point of view as a law-abiding citizen, taxpayer. We can save some money, because it costs a lot. Yeah. In the state of Georgia, it costs $90,000 a year to house one child in lockdown. Most of the kids I'm dealing with are doing 3 to 5 years. So that's just from a practical point, what we can do in society. And there was many of us, and I'm thinking, pie in the sky, but many of us, what can we do for society? And God has given us the tools. We just need to operate in them.
That's true. That's true. And like you said, I honestly think it has a lot to do with the issue too. It's fatherlessness, obviously. It's the lack of a dad. But I was a youth pastor for about 6 years in Florida, and then also I was a volunteer youth director in Pennsylvania. It was one of the hardest group of kids that I worked with. Not just the fatherless kids. Obviously, that's challenging. It's hard to minister. You do your best with them, but I think they're more open than even kids that have a dad in their house. Yes. That their dad is a hypocrite, or he doesn't want anything to do with them, or he's anti-religious. Those are the ones that are really hard. If they're anti-Christian or whatever, they're the ones that are really hard to work with because they have that rejection in their own house. Yeah, that's what you were speaking about earlier. That's exactly. So I completely agree with you about that.
Yeah, definitely.
So, as we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share about the issue of fatherlessness? Is there anything else that comes to your mind? You're like, hey, I should have shared this, or anything else that we're just talking about fatherlessness. I mean, is there anything else that you want to bring up?
Sean, if you feel called, or you're at a frustration of what you see on the nightly news about youth, do something about it. Either it could be do a fatherless ministry, come alongside kids, or look for a typical prison ministry. And I don't like to use that corn word because people get a different flavor of what that is. Pray that God can lead you, be used. The key to this, I watched a missionary pastor at our church, and I asked you, why do you do this? You have kids at home, why do you come and speak to these boys? He goes, well, if I can speak to these boys, okay, they will leave my boys alone, in a sense. Or in another sense, I can teach my boys about their life, you know, or my boys have it already and these boys do not, you know. If my boys are doing fine, can't other boys do fine too? So it doesn't say, well, Devon and them don't have kids or he's retired or whatever, you know. Everybody can be part of the solution. You know, it can. You know, politically, our system will always answer the problem with fatherless, at risk, gangs, and that the only solution that they have is lockup, is locking kids up. But that is not, I know, I believe in you do the crime, pay, you do the time. Okay. Yeah, I understand that. But we can offset some of this if we're being proactive, you know. And I have the history now, Sean. You know that I have the history of it. I've seen it works. It does. It works. So step out. The churches all over the United States can start something like what you're doing. I'm always keeping up with you and excited to see you, the ventures that you have, and speak life in the churches to speak about this subject, you know, and wake up folks.
Yeah, and we're in the trenches together, and I appreciate what you do. And I appreciate how you're working, and it was amazing to get to see what you did. 2019, I think we were out there, and it's just I appreciate it, and I'm thankful that you're doing what you do. I was at Augusta, Georgia, and now you're in South Carolina. You're pretty close to the.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Just excited about how thank you for serving. Thank you for reaching these kids, and we all can do a part. And that's what I really want to bring to light with this podcast, with this show, is challenging people. Hey, get involved or get more involved, or here's some ways you can do better, or hey, let's just help you understand there's other people out there doing work like this. Let's band together. You know, we're in the trenches together. So thank you, Devon, for sharing. Thank you for
brother,
doing what you do. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Blessings on your ministry, man. Thank you.
God bless you too. Thank you.
To learn more about how you can get involved in fatherless family ministry, visit lifefactors.org, where you can find some free resources. You can find our books that we have. You can find even the program that we have to help you start a single mom ministry within your ministry or within your church. We can all work together to lead fatherless families to the Heavenly Father.